Yeah, just do it. It doesn't
I
matter when we start, really. I don't
uh,
think there's any value in whatever. We, what
I
the
think
fuck are we?
I
What are we doing?
let-
What are we
give
doing?
us an intro here or something like that. Give us an intro. Episode 2.
Yeah, I have nothing. Just no. I have nothing good to say. I when I called you before we started recording, I was telling you about the misery I was experiencing.
Yep.
As I was driving back from work, I was screaming in my car, just saying like "fuck" a lot, like hitting my steering wheel, being like "damn it," because my life is very difficult right now, and it sucks. But that's okay. Um,
Yeah,
because it's
it
okay to
right
not
because
be
it
okay.
doesn't matter
It doesn't matter.
because
But I
nothing
was
matters.
well, I was telling you, I was saying, okay, I was talking about something that had happened before I got off work. I was driving my last route of the night. I drive this like small portion of a larger route, and I'm at this station, and I'm getting passengers, and this older Filipina lady comes on, and for whatever reason, we start talking. I think she said like, "Oh, it's really cold in here." I was like, "Oh, like I'll turn the heater on for you." Right? I'm trying to be nice. Right? I'm doing my job. Customer service, big thing.
Hmm.
And then uh I she's like, oh, it really sucks getting old. And I was like, yeah, I feel the same way. And she's like, shut up, you're a baby. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. But I feel. And
Right.
then she goes on and on. And as you know, I'm going through kind of a difficult period of my life right
A
now
rough
where
patch.
I've been questioning, right? I've been questioning if I should stay here in Santa Cruz. And she was like, telling me, she's like, you belong here. You're gonna have kids here. You're gonna grow old here. Your life is destined to be here. And I'm like, you are like an old Filipino lady. My ex broke up with me, who was the reason why I wanted to leave, was also Filipino. So it
Yeah.
just felt odd to me that I was like being lectured about the importance of staying here by someone who in some ways embodies essential characteristics of the person that really made me want to leave.
Yeah, you're
But
like, what is it
I
with you
like the idea
people?
of saying, right, what is it with you fucking people?
What,
No, but I like the idea of staying. I liked her message. I thought it was good. And I was like, oh, maybe I needed to hear that. But it's also very frustrating because part of me wants to leave. So there's my little spiel.
wait,
Do
so
with that.
now you're okay with staying in Santa Cruz?
Well, I don't really know. That's the frustrating thing. I'm being told by this like all-knowing person apparently who she's like telling me like you belong here, and then but then there's the other part of me that's like, fuck this place, I want to go, right?
I, I
So
I don't like the idea that like every single old person is like some wise like entity like and above us because I don't know
right,
like
right.
they're portrayed as such like they have like so much wisdom and so much experience in life and they have good answers and advice for the younger generation but sometimes they're just like saying like
Shit.
outrageous stuff that doesn't matter and they also don't know your situation they don't know you um
No, no. But the thing about old people is like you feel like they can see through that, like that they can see into you, right? Without actually having to talk to you and get to know you, that they can like peer into
yeah
your soul, which I think is part of the thing you're saying is bullshit. It's like
yeah
we shouldn't be thinking that they have that ability because nobody does, right?
well there
Unless
are
they
some
do.
things that are like more contemporary um that will stand the test of time that maybe they went through that we still go through, but times have changed. Society is different, the world is different. Like
Absolutely.
physically, we still go through like the same human experiences that these old people did, but I don't know. It's so like slim, like the experience that they went through compared to us, just because it's so different now. Uh,
Everything changes. Go
yeah,
figure.
yeah.
Literally everything. And but that's the one constant, as they say, right? Is that everything is changing. Um, but I don't know. It's just yeah, fuck
Has
this shit.
so I told you many times already about Pascal, Blaise Pascal. and I was
Hmm.
reading his journal book today, his Pensées, and he one of like the lines is about time and change, and he said everything changes in time. He like
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, like I know that. But he like specifically said, which I think is funny, he's like, a girl that you liked like when you were younger, like when you're older, you probably won't like her anymore, right? Like that's
Hmm.
like an example of changing with time. So he was just like further proving to me that stuff changes with time, even little things like that. Uh,
Right,
it's just
right. I mean,
inevitable.
as we change, what we want and what we value changes with it, right? And a
Yeah.
partner, um, often, we want certain things. When we're young, we don't really, I think, know for sure what we want, right? Or maybe we
No.
don't know necessarily what's good for us in the long run going forward. Um, I think for me, when I was younger, at least what I was attracted to was like very superficial thing, you know. Um, I didn't care much about personality, funny enough. I don't think when I was first started dating, it was really just about look, and were they bearable to be around? You know, was there at least a hint of chemistry? Was it not just like
Yeah.
totally awkward all the time? And if that wasn't the case, then they were attractive and they weren't unbearable. Then yeah, it was fine. And yeah, I like that he uses that example of a relationship. I think that's a good example. But
I,
there are many
it's
other
it's
things.
it's probably one of the most like relatable examples to use. It's funny you said that you like at the beginning, like you usually care more about superficial things and like appearances over personality. And
Mhm.
now I feel like I value personality so much over anything else that I don't care enough about appearances, which I should because you don't want to have a bad foot. Uh,
Don't say. We talked
you,
about that the last time we recorded.
no,
Your
we didn't talk about feet at all. Uh,
Okay, because you say that this is a term. I haven't Googled it, but I've mentioned it to people I know, and they're always like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I have to
yeah,
say,
well,
"Oh, my mentally ill friend in San Diego, who doesn't have a job, told me this is what you call a hoe."
yeah,
Sorry.
I learned it in a gangster rap song. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
but
Sorry.
it's a regional thing because I think it's like a Dago thing. It's like a Dago rap thing. Uh,
Okay.
I haven't heard it anywhere else, so I think it's like a novelty here.
Whatever works. Sorry for, by the way, I shouldn't say you're mentally ill. I'm one to talk. I'm one to fucking talk. Um, yeah. Well, it's funny you should mention a foot though, because
Right.
I don't know if you want to talk about that here, but you have a situation going on.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a fluctuation.
oh God. You have an infatuation. It's like an
Yeah.
infatuation, but it's foot.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that.
well, we don't have to go into, God forbid she finds this
No,
video.
no, but I think it's important for the people to know that that's where I'm at in my life right now. Mentally ill,
Mhm.
unemployed, in a infatuation with a foot. Uh, so
Um,
that's what I'm about. That's my shtick. That's my thing.
that's where Sam's life has led him up until this point.
Yeah.
Uh,
I guess this is a good way to ask you if you have any upward trends in your life lately that you would
well,
care to share.
I'm not going to be homeless,
Yep. Yeah,
which
you got a
I
new
think
apartment.
that's the huge upward trend. I might get fired, but we'll see. If I don't, I would say that's an upward trend because I was late for work.
Yeah.
And in the bus world, right, being late is a big deal, right? Like, how dare you? But
Gotta be
sometimes
on
life
time for
just
the
makes you late.
stops.
Sometimes, right? Like, do people? I'm sorry. I'm important. People count on me to get to places when they need to. I'm an essential worker. I'm
Yep.
practically a hero. No, but
I think if you started looking at it like that, you could probably like trick yourself into thinking that you have like a really valuable purpose.
Trick myself? Oh, how dare you suggest that it's not true, though,
What
bastard.
that you're a hero? What are you saving people from?
From being late or from not being able
You were late. You need a hero.
once. I was late once. I've
Yeah,
called out a few times.
you're not gonna get fired for being late once.
You don't know these people like I do. Management here, dude, they're terrible. They'll fire you just because you, I mean, I don't
The
know. I've just heard
the
horror
bus
stories,
industry is cutthroat.
specifically here,
Yeah,
apparently. But I think in general, right? When you're on probation, right? It's like they don't like you, then you're out.
yeah.
And I have a bad rap there because I got a guy fired. Remember, I got a guy fired because he kept calling me Jewish, and I didn't like it. I said, I'm not Jewish. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being Jewish. I'm just not Jewish. But he wouldn't stop with the Jew jokes, and he made it personal, dude. That's the worst part. He's like, what was it like when your grandma went up in ashes through the chimneys at Auschwitz? And I'm thinking, dude what? I can't do like think about it. I, you're cracking up over here. I was devastated. I was just
Why?
heartbroken.
You're not Jewish.
I thought my
Are you
brethren in
like
bus school
are you like
wouldn't
mad?
tear me
Like
apart.
are you mad that someone thought you were Jewish? Like you just hate them so much you don't want to be
No, no,
considered
no, no,
one?
no,
Are you
no,
serious,
no, no.
Alex?
Like,
Are you serious,
no,
dude?
not for no. It's not fair to the people who are Jewish.
Hmm. It's like
To
stolen
it's
valor.
right. Like I can't bear witness to the pain. I can't like because I feel like I'm I'm shouldering the pain of like, oh my God, like what if my grandma did? Like, but she didn't, right? Um, no, I just think it's like, well, look, it's not okay. You want the real answer? It's like whether or not I'm Jewish is not important. The fact that he thinks because I would tell him, I'm like, I am not Jewish. I am not Jewish. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that. Uh, but he just didn't believe me. He's like, "Yeah,
Yeah, but
you're full of shit."
you look hella Jewish though.
I know, I know.
So
That
he's probably thinking that like you actually are Jewish, but like you're such a denier. You're like a Holocaust denier. You're like you want to deny everything that has to do with your
we
roots.
we will. I will happily do like an ancestry or something for this, just to prove. Oh, watch it literally show up. Like, dude, I'm like 100% Jewish, which would be fine. That's totally fine. But,
Oh,
okay, but sorry, can I just say what really
yeah.
had me get him fired though was we
Oh, yeah.
were in bus school class, right? And we're watching an informative video about the importance of like safe driving or something. And he hands me this hand-drawn note, and it's me in a like either a furnace
Oh
or
boy.
something like a gas chamber. And of course he had to accentuate my nose and my features and stuff. And he's like, "Hey, this is you getting gas, right? At like Auschwitz." And I'm just thinking, all right, dude, I can't. Like, to me, that felt like it crossed the line. To some
Yeah,
other
for sure.
people, especially people in my class, they thought I was just being a thin-skinned little bitch because I turned him in. I was like, I went to management. I was like, all right, this fucking guy like won't stop. But prior to that, I had mentioned, dude, I was like, look, think you're a funny guy. I like you, but can we stop with all the really intense like anti-Semitic bullshit? And he's like, well, I don't know. The rest is history. But anyway, because I got him fired for that, there are people who don't like me there. They think like, oh, you can't joke around me, right? Because
Hmm.
I'll get you fired.
Yeah, you seem
Um,
untrustworthy now.
Absolutely. To some people, mostly the people who were in my class, and that was like 12 people. Um, to the majority of the company, though, I think most people aren't too bothered by it because they don't really know what had happened. And that's good.
Hmm.
And keep it that way.
Yeah.
What
So,
were we talking? What? How did we get to
well,
this? How
well, I
did
was
this
asking you
happen?
like upward trend of the week, and you said that you weren't homeless and you didn't get, or you said you might get fired, but you haven't gotten fired yet.
Not yet. No, not
Um,
yet.
on the topic of Judaism and the Jewish
Mhm.
folk, I'm going to be watching Shoah this week with a friend. I think I explained to you what Shoah was before. It's a nine
Is
hour
it the like six,
Holocaust
9 hour?
documentary. Yeah. And
You're
we're
gonna
gonna watch
in
it in
one
one
sitting.
sitting. Yeah, no
Mhm.
breaks. Um, I'm
That's
thinking it's gonna
brutal,
be just extremely soul crushing and uh,
devastating.
yeah,
I'm sure.
devastating. I
Yeah.
don't know why we're doing this. I think just because we're like film bros and it's like the highest rated documentary of all time. Uh,
Yeah, I think you both maybe carry some guilt and you're trying to punish yourselves for sins. It sounds like who would sit through 9 hours and watch a Holocaust in one sitting? Who didn't have at least a little bit of like, I'm sorry. No, no, maybe you're right.
yeah, I
It
don't know.
is.
So I have that to look forward to. Uh, cause we were like, dude, we can't do like 3 hours a day for 3 days, cause like that'll feel like terrible. Like like you watch 3 hours and then like you wake up the next day, you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta watch more Holocaust documentary for another 3 hours for just days. It's like torture. I think he's gonna be drinking during it too, which is gonna be insane. Getting
Just
rowdy during the Holocaust.
yeah, just do math while you're watching it. That'll keep you
Uh,
up.
uh, dude,
No.
it's
Uh,
uh when I was doing pest control, I was in people's houses a lot of the time. For most of the day, I was in at least one person's house for like most of the day, or two people. And I was in this old lady's house for like a day, just doing like stuff inside the house. And
uh,
she was like walking back and forth between the rooms, like making small talk with me. It was like very normal stuff at first. And then she goes, "Hey, can I tell you a story? Like, do you want to hear a funny story?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like,
uh,
"Go ahead, tell me." And then she starts off, she's like, "So my family was a part of the Holocaust." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like,
it's a
so
brutal
so
introduction.
yeah, I don't even recall what the story was about just because I felt like like in the worst position. I was stuck in this person's house working and I had to listen to her tragic family's like death story in the Holocaust that was somehow funny. I don't know why she thought it was funny. I'm sure it was, but I couldn't pay attention just because that was such a wild a wild thing to say to somebody.
Holocaust is never funny. She should be fired for it. She turned her into management. No, she tried to make it light of it. Well, humor can
Well,
help you get through some of the most difficult, like traumatizing experiences in life.
yeah,
Um,
but it's weird for like you to tell that to an audience though. Like who doesn't know the context of it, who wasn't there. Like you can't like describe or get across like the same feelings because all I'm thinking about is the Holocaust and how tragic it was and not your funny, quirky story about it.
right. I'm just saying from, I guess, from the perspective of somebody who did go through something traumatizing or has family that has trauma. Sometimes the ways that they choose to communicate it might be lighthearted and like funny because it's too difficult to process it in any other context, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
I remember there was a BBC series they did on the First World War, and there's many little episodes, or maybe not little episodes. It was like a radio thing that they had broadcasted, and one of them was about humor, the value of humor in the First World War, and how it helps so many soldiers get through that, right? Because it is it devastating. I mean, can you imagine, being in the trenches? Fuck, that's
Yeah.
terrible. So to have a sense of humor about it, even when you're talking about like, oh, Freddie got fucking his face blown off yesterday.
Yeah.
Uh, Whatever, you make some joke about it. I can't think of anything, but um, so I don't know. I don't know. That came to mind.
You ever see that? You ever see like those things on like on social media? It's like a meme and it's like some dude saying, uh, like I shouldn't be working this 9 to 5 job. I should be out there fighting with my brothers. But but like not everybody's like made for it. Like the harsh reality of it is like half of you guys are probably dying or like something like that. Uh, and he's like, I should just be out there with my brothers. It's like you're just gonna die. You're living like a cushy life. Like you should
Right.
be right where you are.
No, I think I can understand what they're feeling. There is, oh God, I wish I knew more about this, but okay, there's a few things. Dying with purpose, right? Like you sacrificed yourself for the greater good of something, right? So thoughts of dying in combat might feel like they could do that for you. But then the question of what is the combat comes up. Well, what is the conflict you're involved in? If you died, would you feel like your death was meaningful, like you contributed to something of value? So people who fought in the Vietnam War probably wouldn't, who died in it, maybe wouldn't have felt like their death, or maybe they would. I don't know. Um, so dying with purpose, maybe a romanticization of like dying, fighting right for something, instead of the alternative, which is like you live your cushy life and you die in a hospital, right, in this like sterile room. Maybe you're in hospice and it's slow and you're kind of guided through drugs to feel better, maybe, um, or maybe you're not, and you die from like what people went through with COVID, right? You're isolated from people, and it feels like hell. I can only imagine it would have felt like hell to die in a hospital like that. Or maybe you die in some car crash, some fucking drunk driver just hits you, right? And you didn't even see it coming. But when you die in conflict, you know that your life is on the line now. And but then again, many deaths, like if you read or you hear about people fighting in Ukraine right now, they say, like I've read it said that they die like you die like worms, right? You're just maybe a drone fucking explodes and you're dead, or some missile that you didn't hear coming just fucking incinerates you instantly, or you get shot and you bleed out. I mean, none of them, they're not, these aren't, these don't sound like heroic deaths. Maybe they are, but they're not like, I think people's concept of what it means to die in war, I think it's horrifying. I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I get it. I
It's
get it. Yeah.
complicated.
No, it's
Yeah.
different. It's different dying, I guess like at the hand of conflict, uh, compared to like you said, like dying in a hospital and like slowly eased into it. Um,
Yeah.
I would hate to die like that, like slowly, like in a hospital. I would much rather like something just happened or but but
Right.
the thing I don't get is like dying with a purpose just because like that's not what I believe in and my purpose. Like I guess like some people will be like, yeah, my purpose is to protect my country and like be a hero for my country. I guess that's
Right.
just not mine, so I couldn't relate to it on that, but I understand like dying because of conflict and like dying for like I guess like a quote unquote purpose.
Yeah. You could even argue, I think, so you were fighting in a war and you didn't agree with the reasoning behind it or whatever your side was fighting for. The fact that you could say, well, my death was one less death of someone else, right? Like I held the place of someone who would have been in my shoes and died too. I don't know if that, or
Yeah,
you kind of see that too.
you're being quite optimistic today, I will say.
I don't know why. Well,
Yeah,
I
you
have things to look forward to, certainly.
Yeah,
um,
you're thinking on like the positive and like bright side of things.
which is unusual for me,
It was very
especially now.
unusual. It's good though. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a great thing to think about, though. I like thinking about what it means to die and like what would be a good death, right?
Sure.
Because it's inevitable for all of us. Um, yeah, I mean, who knows? I mentioned, I think I alluded earlier, or I was talking about this quote that kind of inspired the little spiel I had gone on. It was from this like Japanese author, I think, and he was just kind of talking about his like hatred of like oh, so many people die now in hospitals, and it strips them of like a meaningful death, or something along those lines. Anyway,
It's good to think about.
yeah.
Especially like you said, like with COVID or something like that. Like a lot of people, like that was their reality. They had to die like that, alone,
Hmm.
secluded from other people.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, it's
and
tragic.
and we're like we live like such cushy lives. It's like almost well, it's not like impossible, but it's like hard to die from like something like real. Like with like how much like technology and like how much like support we have like in our lives, like we're like really safe, but at the end of the day, that also takes away from us having a meaningful, uh, interesting death,
Yeah, what is it to have an interesting death? Uh,
not die in a hospital.
not die in a hospital. Well, yeah, I suppose not. Would you know, yeah,
Okay,
what is
what's the most interesting way to die?
oh, ooh,
Or we can just do like
that's
worst ways. I think one of the worst ways to die would be like to drown. I think that'd be terrible.
I think drowning is very much a bad way to die, but I don't think it's the worst way to die. No, I think what my favorite, remember I've talked to you about this before. I think ALS is a really,
Oh,
really brutal because it's
okay.
when you're
It's okay.
drowning, we
Not
okay,
counting like
you
diseases though, or
but
like
that's a way to
something.
die.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, that's an awful way. But
it's over years, man.
like I'm talking about
Years, you
like
know.
like accidents or like something that occurs that like causes you to just like die like right there. Like not
Okay.
like a uh not
Okay.
like a
All
disease.
right. Yeah, well, drinking bleach. Uh, 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 what antifreeze? Do you know about that? Like,
Yeah.
it's terrible. I mean, like, I think like crystals form in your vital organs or something. Like, just tear it. I mean, horrible. Um, there's even like cyanide, right? Which is here is like the classic, like a spy or someone who's been caught, right? They keep the
Yeah.
pill and they chew it, and whenever they die, it's brief. I think it takes a few minutes, but those few minutes are like agonizingly painful. Um, it's horrible. Um, I think if we want to talk about like good ways to die, right? On the contrary, because there are many bad ways to die.
Yeah.
You could think of um, I don't know, like imagine you're like Abraham Lincoln, right? And you're watching you're at Ford's Theater, and you're watching this beautiful, you're just totally distracted, and some fucking guy just blows your brains out.
That's actually that's a good point. That's a good point.
You
He
know,
didn't see it
that's
coming. He was entertained in the moment. He was probably laughing
right.
or like clapping or something like that.
It was
And then
merciful.
yeah,
Although
yeah,
I think he didn't die instantly. I think it took like a day or two before he was
oh,
pronounced dead.
jeez, that's horrible.
So I don't know if he was conscious during that, or partially conscious, or whatever that experience was like for him, or if he was kind of
Jeez,
like a vegetable. I don't know. Um,
jeez.
yeah, yeah. There
That's
are
that's probably one of the best deaths in history.
Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
for someone who did so much for our country, it's only fitting then that he he'd be gifted. Are we saying that his assassination was a gift?
Are we saying that death is a gift?
What is it that Steve Jobs said in his little commencement speech for Stanford? He was
I have
like,
no idea.
death is essential. It's like you need it. It clears out the old and makes way for the new, right? Like um, some other things I know that he said as well. But I think that was the core message. It's like death
Hmm.
is essential. Um, and then we could ponder about what it would mean to live forever. Like
I I don't know. I don't think death is a gift because I think gifts have to be like something given to you, and I think because it's inevitable and it's like gonna happen, I don't know if we can consider it a gift.
would we
Uh,
consider life a gift?
yeah, yeah, because your life isn't guaranteed. Death is guaranteed. Your life isn't though.
It's an interesting, but it's interesting to think about because your life exists, it was bound to happen because it has. Does that make sense?
Right, but I'm saying like you like waking up like the next morning isn't guaranteed, or like you like not getting like randomly shot
Mhm.
by some dude in the street. Like that's like a possibility. So like life is always a gift. Uh, because there's no like security in it, like no matter like what, because anything could happen. But death is always certain because you're not going to live forever. That's something that I don't think we can consider death a gift because of that, because it's always going to be there at the end of the day.
I think for some people, death is like a merciful gift when your life is so miserable, because it guarantees that your misery has an end, right?
Yeah, yeah, but
And so,
we should be anti-suicide on this.
well, not even suicide or euthanasia, right? It's
That's
like
where my mind goes straight to. So,
understandably, no, understand. We're not pro that by any means.
yeah.
I don't think. Uh, but there are certainly some illnesses and conditions people find themselves in that just reduce the quality of life so much
Mm.
that like without any cure or hope of improvement, you're
Yeah.
just in
Yeah,
so much agony,
in that sense, then I guess it could be considered like like relief, I guess. Like getting
Right?
relieved of like your pain, like pulling the plug like, on like life support or something like that.
Yeah. No, it's sad, but
Well,
it
it's so
seems
sad, but
sad.
it's like somewhat relieving. You know, you don't have to live in agony anymore, like you said.
Yeah,
That
we can change how we view death. Like, is it always a bad thing?
Yeah.
Uh,
D David Foster Wallace said that suicide is a present that you give to yourself, which is
fitting that he
horrible.
would say that because
Yeah.
he killed himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's terrible.
It is terrible.
Um,
It's
I
horrible.
wish he
He
hadn't
was a
done
great dude.
that.
Me too,
Was
dude.
he?
But I watch his interviews and like I read his books and I'm like, David, if you were alive today, you would hate our world. You would hate society. You would be so disappointed in us. Because
Well, I thought. Sorry, I should let you finish.
like, you know, just
Actually,
because like he talked so much about consumerism and
mhm.
like materialism and like this downfall of humankind, especially like on the Western side of the world and like Western civilization. And that was in the 90s, in the early 2000s. And 20 years later, it's hasn't gotten any better. So,
Right. Yeah. Well, he called it. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, so I'm
and
saying like he would be so like disappointed. I don't even think he could. I mean, I'm sure he had somewhat of an idea of how bad this would get, but I bet he would still be like mind blown with how insane society is now.
I bet he wouldn't be terribly surprised. Honestly, I think he could have assumed like it was only going to get worse. Like he could see
Yeah.
the ball, like the snowball had started to roll and gain all this mass. It's only going to continue to do so, right?
Unfortunately.
Um, which is very very sad. Um, Speaking of things that gain traction, uh, and involve a lot of people. I don't know if you wanted to get into the slideshow that you had prepared or not.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we can get actually I made a slideshow about lobsters. The I
okay.
didn't make a slideshow about the other thing. I just have notes on it. Uh I was just gonna
Okay.
read you some notes. If I could also just look up the cases so I can show them to you. You can see them for yourself if you'd like. Or some
Yeah,
images, whatnot.
I'm interested in the lobster thing right now because I kind of already know what it's going to be about, and we are on the
Oh yeah,
topic of like death and suffering, so I think
and
it feels
the
appropriate.
the lobster thing is considered or is courtesy of David Foster Wallace, considered a lot the lobster, his essay.
Yeah, great.
So yeah, we can get into that. So I
We're
actually I
back.
brought this just so I could show you considered the lobster
Oh
and
wow.
in
I didn't
other
think it was a
essays.
hard copy. I thought you read like a PDF. I didn't realize it was that big.
No,
Huh?
this is the actual lobster essay is probably like 50 pages or something like that. He has a lot of other essays in here that are really good. Um, he has one where he went to a adult film like festival or like convention or something like that, and
Hmm.
like was writing about that, about like the tragedies of that industry, I guess. He wrote a really long essay about the dictionary that was brutal to read. It was like the most boring thing I've ever read in my life. And then like the final couple pages of the essay, it like clicked, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." So that just goes to show you how great of a author he was.
About the
Anyway,
dictionary. Hmm.
yeah, he was just writing about like the dictionary and about language and how it's important to have I guess how you say like slang and like to have like grammatical errors, like it's important to culture to have like stuff like that. But anyways,
Right, like the term foot, for example. Language is
like
always changing, and our
like the term
interpretation of
foot.
words or the creation of new words, right? That are maybe understood in smaller groups
Okay,
are still good. Whatever, we can go
yeah.
on.
Um, yeah. So this is uh the article. He wrote this essay for like a magazine, like a food magazine originally. He consider the lobster, and it's about the Maine Lobster Festival, which is the largest lobster festival, I guess, like in the world, in America. I don't know. Um, he goes to this thing for like a day, uh, talks about how like I don't know. I guess like the consumerism of it and like how like disgusting it is because like I don't know, like just imagine like fat people like slobbing over lobster and like standing in lines outside in the heat for hours sweating uh for like this kind of thing. That's kind of what he's writing about. But it's considered lobster because he wants you to consider the ethics and the morality behind catching lobster, killing lobster, and eating lobster. Um, which I had not considered before, because I don't know if that was something I really even cared about. I'm not one for like supporting PETA or like becoming vegetarian or something like that. I don't know where you stand on like animal rights.
I think that I think I think ideally I would be a vegan, honestly.
A vegan.
I would. I would. Maybe it's difficult. It's a complicated thing. I think that the lives of livestock, for the most part, it's very brutal and difficult and morally concerning, right? Like the living conditions and are just brutal. There's no consideration for quality of life. I think it's really just about getting that problem. Um,
Yeah.
and the well-being of whatever livestock isn't really important mentally. Can you be brought to a physical state that we need you at, so when we kill you, you provide what we need to sell. And
I,
that
I
is
understand.
that's difficult. Yeah,
I understand the
yeah, because
argument.
imagine.
I wish it wasn't so like inhumane, but I don't know. I don't care.
If Sam, because you, when you were born, you woke up as a human, and it's been pretty good. It has its ups and downs, but it's been all right. Imagine if you were born a cow in some fucking slaughterhouse or whatever, in just some just shitty, fucking literally shitty conditions. Just,
I
I mean,
I understand.
who knows what that's like? Could have been worse.
I
But
understand.
that's
Um, the
conversation for another day, maybe.
I implore you, I encourage you to read this. I think this is the entire article, the entire essay, if I'm not mistaken. There's a video of him on YouTube of him reading this, which is kind of cool to hear him read it. Um, but because well, not the main argument, but something that really supports the argument and does it justice is the actual festival itself, because it adds to like the grossness of lobster. Well, not of lobster, because lobster is great. It tastes amazing. Of like the eating of it and
Mhm.
consuming of it. Um, he talks about um like how going there like sucks, like this festival sucks, 'cause, like there's traffic and stuff like that, obviously. 25,000 pounds of fresh caught Maine lobsters consumed over preparation in the world's largest lobster cooker near the ground's north entrance. 25,000 pounds, which is an insane amount. Let's see here. He talks about, I guess, like the conditions of the festival. Um, the tent suppers come in styrofoam trays, and the soft drinks are iceless and flat, and the coffee is convenience store coffee, and yet more styrofoam, and the utensils are plastic. There are none of the special long skinny forks for pushing out the tail meat, though a few savvy diners bring their own. So this is like a very big thing on the East Coast, especially in Maine, because that side of the coast is where you want to catch lobster, because there's no good lobster on the West Coast. So yeah, he talks about like the type of lobsters that they eat, why it's good. Um, and then this is what I want to start with right here. Up until sometime in the 1800s, lobster was literally low-class food eaten only by the poor and the institutionalized. And here is where I will begin my slideshow presentation actually, sorry, I have this first because I think it's great imagery.
I see what you're I see what we're getting at. So we're getting at like an image that represents the kinds of people we would imagine at this festival.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
exactly.
we have the lobster, the poor lobster that's dying this terrible death and being consumed by the slob on the top.
Precisely.
Got
So
it.
I did my own research here on the 1800s lobster stuff like that. So in the 1800s, Victorian America was finally starting to want lobster, and here's why. There were lots of advances in transportation and food storage, like canning, so people could eat it even if they lived far from the coast. The fishing industry got a whole lot better at trapping lobster, and in the 1830s, rich tourists began traveling to Maine to escape the summer heat, and by the 1880s, trips to the seaside were a super popular trend. The visitors experienced the delight of lobster boils, and they understandably wanted lobster again when they got back home. So in the 1800s, I think I told you before, there was a law put into place that they could not feed prisoners lobster 7 days a week because it was considered cruel and unusual punishment. It was that bad. Uh, when
Hmm.
During this time, there was so much lobster in the street that like it was like rats. It was like rats crawling around the street. Like people did not think this was like a luxury. And then I
Mhm.
used this picture over here, obviously, because this is a picture, I don't know, representing the 1800s. And right here on sorry, on the floor, there's a little lobster just like crawling around like on the floor, just to show like the non-poshness of it.
Hmm.
Um, and then eventually, chefs came up with new ways to serve it. Lobster force meat and potted lobster were out. Salads, chowders, and casseroles were in. So advances in the actual types of dishes using lobster became a cool thing. And again, people who were traveling out to like this side of the country were eating lobster and like wanting it. So it was becoming like a trend. In 1851, lobster salad was on the menu at the Revere House in Boston, which counted royalty and presidents among its guests. So it's starting to become like a royalty, like a almost like caviar. In 1876, this restaurant, dubbed a true palace of hot cuisine, invented the lobster, a la Newburgh. It became the most popular lobster dish at Coney Island's resort hotels, which went through 3,500 pounds of lobster every day. And by 1976, the Boston Cooking School cookbook was declaring that lobsters belonging to the highest order of crustaceans. So beating out crabs and what other crustaceans there are, I don't know.
Right.
But that is a huge section in his essay where he's describing how we have kind of played a trick on ourselves, sort of placebo affecting the value of lobster. Because at one point it was not like this, and then overnight we turned it into something that's like it's $30 a roll for a lobster roll now. You know,
Right. Right.
people are making trips to the Maine Lobster Festival because this is such a delicacy. Like I said, it's like caviar. Uh, so I don't know. I don't understand why. Well, obviously, all of this information here proves why we consider it a delicacy now, but I don't understand why. Because it's something that is so plentiful. It's just another fish in the sea. But we put it on a pedestal for no reason.
There's money to be made, right?
Yep.
There's money to be made. And
Yep.
if it is plentiful and actually resourcing it is inexpensive, you can begin to see the incentive and why you would want to say, oh no, it's actually this is a delicacy, right? You change people's perspective on it.
Yeah.
It's all about people's understanding and not the truth, right? If you can change how they see it, then it doesn't matter what it really is anymore, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it all thanks to the rich tourists, according here in the 1830s, who went to Maine, escaping the summer heat and then discovering lobster, and then they made it a thing. So it's like if you slap like a high price tag on something, like people will just automatically uh like hold it to a higher degree. Just because you do something like that. It's like designer clothing. I would say lobsters are like the designer clothing of the food industry for sure.
yeah, it's as one example of many other things we can list of like cheap and plentiful things which have been marketed a certain way, and so they can put a high price tag on them, and people will just buy it up and
Yeah.
think, oh, this is a delicacy. Um, when in reality, as we know,
Yeah, and,
the
and
truth.
that's another thing about like this festival that he's talking about. Like it's creating this like facade, like this is like a party, that this is like a fair that you go
Right,
to
right.
consume like one specific type of animal, 25,000 pounds of it every year.
That's a lot.
It, yeah.
That's a
So
lot.
I'll go here. Go to the, how do you do this? Okay, I'll go here to the next one. So this is about lobsters and their feelings. Um, So we can talk first before I get into this about the process of uh, catching and cooking lobster, which I'm sure you're familiar with. When you catch lobsters in cages and then you keep them in seawater before like you take them anywhere, like a restaurant or whatever kind of whatever you're transporting them to, you keep them in seawater and then you tape their claws
Mhm.
shut. The reason they do that is not, well, it's partly like for their safety so they don't get pinched. It's also so that the lobsters don't kill each other. because their primal instincts are to kill each other to try to keep themselves safe
Mm.
because they feel like they are endangered, which they are.
But not by themselves, really. I mean, maybe if their claws weren't taped shut, but the danger
Yeah,
isn't them, it's us.
yeah. Um, and then the actual process uh, of cooking lobster, I think, is really sad and really depressing. And I think it's way different than like killing a cow or like a chicken or something like that. Um, and that's part of the reason why I guess lobster is so sought after because it's technically like the freshest food that you could eat. It's quite literally alive like seconds before like you eat it. Um, and I guess that's somewhat of the appeal to it, but it's also I think is very inhuman and just harsh. You take these lobsters, you put them in water and you put them in a slow boil. You don't put it in boiling water right away. You bring the water to a boil, and
Mhm.
that's how these lobsters are killed. It's a very slow death. And another thing that David Foster Wallace mentions is that because this is the freshest food, they don't have lobster like prepared or like pre-cooked for consumption. Lobsters are technically killed like for you specifically. Like when you order them, upon ordering them, there's one picked out that is going to be killed specifically for you. So had you not ordered that, there would be like one less lobster that would be killed, which is I think is something interesting to think about because again, that's different than something like cows or chickens, which are already dead and it's already
Mhm.
there for someone for more than one person to eat.
Mhm.
I'm not going to the store uh, and then telling them like, "Hey, I want that cow," because that's way different. Like, imagine like if you were at like family dinner for like Thanksgiving, and the turkey you guys were gonna be eating is like some like family pet, like family turkey that like you saw, and then
Mhm.
you guys are gonna kill it and eat it like 10 minutes later,
Mhm.
which is yeah, I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm totally convinced with that argument. That you choosing what is gonna die makes it so much worse, right? Um, if you look at like a cow or something that's killed, and then you do end up buying its meat in a store, um, the the
Okay, if I was going to a farm for a day, like I was like taking a tour on a farm, and I saw this cow for like 5 seconds. And then the farmer asked me, "Do you want me to kill this cow so we can have burgers later?" I would say no. That's
well, the farmer in the slaughterhouses, they kill the cows regardless. Right. They're going to kill that cow and somebody's
uh,
going to buy it. And if they don't, then the meat goes to waste. Um,
okay. Well, then,
it's not.
if it was a really specific situation where he's like, "I'm not gonna kill this cow. I love this cow, but if you want me to kill it, I will do it for you." I'd be like, "No."
Do you think the people who buy the lobster, if they didn't buy that lobster, somebody else wasn't going to anyway? Uh, Somebody was going to, right? It was destined to happen. It was going to be eaten by somebody. It would just happen to be you. Um, and if it wasn't you and you couldn't make it, it would have been somebody else. It's the fact that we do it, that people do it. I think that makes it bad. Not that you chose to,
Okay. Okay. Sure. Yeah. That. Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying.
yeah.
Um. Okay. Then let me try to bring it back with this lobsters feel pain thing because for a long time it was believed that lobsters do not feel pain like most animals. They don't experience pain or receive pain in the same way that humans do.
Oh, but they do.
Um, oh, they do.
Yeah.
So let's see. London School of Economics and Political Science. They
Ooh,
found that lobsters can
fancy.
feel pain. Um, they study reviewed over 300 scientific studies and concluded that these animals have the biological mechanisms to experience pain in a similar way to vertebrates. Lobsters and other crustaceans can learn from painful experiences and change their behavior, which is way different than, like, I don't know, like a dumb chicken. Uh, for example, crabs have been observed moving to a less favorable shelter after being shocked in their preferred shelter. So they have the ability to recognize change and to protect themselves. Um,
Yes.
Lobsters have a sophisticated nervous system. They can continue to live for 2 to 3 minutes after being dropped into boiling water, and their nervous system response during this time is intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, which again is different than just like, I don't know, like slicing the head off of a cow or whatever you do to kill a cow. I don't know how they kill
Take
cows.
a captive uh, bolt or piston, usually to the skull, I
Yeah,
think.
well, yeah, they're not slowly boiling these cows.
You know, it's
Um,
pretty quick. Yeah, it's very
And then
quick.
the last point I have here is social bonds. Lobsters are unique animals that have social bonds and experience life in many of the same ways that humans do.
Right.
I don't know the legitimacy of that one, but I wanted to put it in here for the sake of the argument. So just so bringing it all back to the title, consider lobster. You just have to consider it. And on my recent trip to Massachusetts, where it's on the East Coast, lobster is a very popular thing out there. Um, my my family and I went to New Hampshire for a day, and we went to a lobster restaurant, and I did not indulge in the eating of lobsters, only because I had literally read this essay like 5 days before, and I was like paranoid thinking about it.
You were considering a lobster.
I was considering the lobster, and I think I will forever be considering the lobster. Uh, because I think, I mean, we were talking about death earlier, like what would be like a really painful way to die. I think getting boiled alive, uh, for someone to eat you would be terrible.
Yeah, it probably would be. It probably would be pretty terrible. Yeah, I agree with that statement. 100%.
Uh,
Um, God,
so
really makes.
tell me how have I convinced you
Mhm.
to not eat lobster?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think I like lobster to begin with, even if it were sourced in a way that was more humane or ethical, right? Or like, if we did consider the lobster, we said we gave them like, this like great death. I don't think I would want to eat it anyway, if I'm being honest. Um, but it is terrible. It's like they're dying this like horrific death that lasts, what, a few minutes, right? Each
Yeah.
time. Um, when I think about like really terrible things that happen to things that are alive, right? What else would a terrible thing be? Um, a living thing that experiences immense pain. How do you like come to terms with that? How do you feel like the world just isn't just hell, right?
Mhm.
Um, I like to think of people maybe watching a scary movie or choosing to ride a roller coaster. We sometimes we seek out things that frighten us, that make us uncomfortable. Like a good movie, in my opinion, should have you feeling intense emotions. And sometimes they're positive and sometimes they're negative. Um, and so the life of a lobster, if we looked at the whole thing from the beginning to the end, could have been great leading up to that terrible death that we know they're going to face. But once that death has been experienced in the process, this horrible boiling process occurs, and it's over. What does this look like? Uh, what does this mean, all things considered? What comes after death for them, right? Um, who knows? Um, because a terrible thing happens to you, does that mean that the whole existence was terrible? Or that that is the end of um, all experience for whatever they were? I think is also important to think about. It's just, this is all very like unrefined thought,
Mhm.
but it's something that I like to think about.
Yeah, yeah, I love like the deep existential thought. I think you already know that, but
Right,
yeah.
right. Um, yeah, it's terrible. The I can't imagine what that experience is like to be boiled, slow boiled, alive. And I like how David Foster Wallace points out this like the plastic utensils and the styrofoam cups and so on.
Right, because
These,
it's something that's so like or it's supposed to be like posh. It's supposed to be uh like a delicacy, and then it it almost loses all of that sense when it's in an environment like that, and it's presented to you like that.
mhm.
Which I guess you could draw parallels to that to like to real life. Which is why I think it apart from it being like an essay about lobsters, I mean it's also just a great essay, and you could probably make a lot of allusions to things about human experience in it for sure.
Yeah, um, it really makes you think,
Makes you
doesn't it?
consider it, yeah.
Consider the lobster. What else is there to consider? There's a lot to consider. Uh, what is it
I
there to
I
consider?
considered I considered getting a lobster tattoo,
Oh, that
just
would be cool.
to show my
Yeah,
allegiance to the lobsters, the
your your your,
crustaceans.
your solidarity with their, that
Yeah,
would be very deep. That would actually be pretty sick. If you, I could see that
I'm
this would be a good thing. Yes,
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I might do it.
dude, I'm thinking about getting a tattoo too, but I'm thinking about getting a a fish.
Oh yeah. What's for any reason or just because you like fish?
No, I don't. I like there's a padlock manufacturer or a lock manufacturer from I think Victorian England, maybe a little bit prior to that, called Chubb.
Okay.
And as you know, I collect locks,
Yep.
and their logo or symbol for a long time was a fish, a chub, and it said like chub in the middle. And I just think it would be cool to have it.
That's sick. Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's a, yeah, yeah. Um,
I I think I posed the idea of getting an Elliott Smith tramp stamp to you one time. Uh,
don't ever pose that to me again.
how are we feeling
Fuck,
about that idea?
terrible. Why would I do? What would it say? It would just say Elliot Smith
No, no, it's just a picture of his face.
above my ass.
Yeah, right in the middle. I'm being so dead serious. I literally saw a picture of that on Instagram.
Did you like it? Did you think it
Yeah.
looked good?
I was like, hell yeah, this is awesome.
And you thought of me?
Yeah, I was like, dude, Alex should get this.
Alec is gonna love an Elliot Smith trans stamp because I'm such a huge fan. You have introduced me to him. Well, I knew about him before you mentioned
Well,
him,
yeah, and
but
I was thinking, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Uh, Although he does make wonderful music, and I'm a big fan of his music, it's quite depressing, and just extremely saddening. Uh, and that's all. There's nothing else.
but we you and I both have experienced very depressing and sad moments in our life, so it's comforting in a way
Right.
to hear our pain displayed in a way that
Yeah.
is artistic and beautiful in a way, and that like captures that these feelings that we have. Um, I think it's no wonder we like it. Yeah, it's sad. That's what
Yeah,
what we like about it because we feel that way.
yeah,
Um, I have had friends and counselors in the past when I'm like, I feel like shit. And I listen to songs that deal with that talk about that. And they're like, you should listen to something happier. I'm like, well, I don't want to. It
yeah.
doesn't feel like it would do justice to do how I'm feeling right now.
Sorry, bringing back my foot. Uh,
Mhm,
I've made it aware to my foot that I'm really drawn to like depressing forms of media. So
mhm.
like sad music, sad movies, sad books. Like I really like that stuff. And the foot said, "Well, you should try to watch a happy movie. You should try to listen to happy music." But it feels too much of a fantasy to me for me to like it because it's not relatable and it doesn't feel like it's real life to watch like a dumb like a Marvel movie with like a happy ending in it. Like
Right.
it's
Well,
not relatable at all. It doesn't speak to me. It doesn't act as a voice for my experience, which is what I want at the end of the day, to feel comforted.
hmm, I'm sure there are aspects of those movies which are relatable, but they aren't right now, maybe because you don't feel good for the most part,
Well,
right?
yeah, dude, I hope I don't like listen to Elliott Smith for the rest of my life, dude. That would suck. I'd be an idiot.
I'm sure you'll come back to it when it feels right,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But um, to be the thing that you listen to the most, I would be concerned, and I hope that you don't. Um, I, but yeah, like how you mentioned Marvel movies, right? Or like an Adam Sandler movie or
Yeah.
something. Like before my breakup, uh, my ex and I watched I think it's called Click.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah, I
Adam
know.
Sandler movie. And uh dude, that was very deep because we broke up and then I couldn't help but think like, oh God, like I'm looking back at all the things that I did that I wish I hadn't done. And there are so many parallels between the messages in that movie and what I did. And yet I didn't wake up from some fucking dream and have that realization of like I can fix this. It's too
Mm,
late. And the fact that we watched it before is almost as if she was giving me a message. It's very odd,
mm.
very painful. Yeah, definitely. Um, I hate it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure one day I'll appreciate like a dumb like Adam Sandler movie. Just not right now. I'm not in that time of my life yet.
Yeah, give it some time. You'll find a foot that you like, and then maybe you'll just you'll be able to have a moment where you can just sit down and watch some fucking Adam Sandler movie. It'll be great because
Yeah,
you don't care.
I think this is great. We're coming full circle. At the beginning of this episode, we talked about how everything changes with time. Uh, so I'm sure in due time there will be change.
Yes,
Uh,
certainly.
just not right now.
It's already happening right now.
No, it's not.
Change is happening. You,
No.
oh, it is, but it is. It's slow. It's slow. Like you're a lobster being slow boiled right now.
That's a horrible way to look at it, dude. You missed the point completely.
I don't think I did.
Nah. I would I would bring up something positive for my upward trend discussion, but I don't think I have anything that's upward trend worthy lately.
Well, you're reading, you're considering the lobster, right? You were in. Boston or wherever, and you had the option to
Dude,
eat
that
one,
was
and
so
you
long
chose
ago.
not that long ago. All things considered, the grand scheme of things of your life on a timeline from conception to where you are now, I don't think that was very long ago. And going forward, right, you're probably going to choose to consider the lobster. I'd say that's part of an upward trend.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you're being so like positive and optimistic during this right now, which is very
Oh, it'll
unusual.
change. It'll change. Yeah, it'll change for sure. Or not.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I
This
mean,
is
this this upward trend, this upward trend thing is great because like obviously we're hoping for an upward trend. Upward trend is ideal. But if we're putting this like in terms of like life as a graph, then this graph fluctuates. It goes up, it goes down, it stays stagnant. Um, and that's okay because life is just a graph.
it's more than a graph. It's
It's a
life.
gift.
Uh,
It's a gift.
there are. It's a gift, and so is death in
No,
some
it's not.
cases. I think. I think. I think as time goes on, maybe I could change your opinion on that, or maybe my opinion on it will change. Um,
I
I
think
mean,
my argument for that is very strong. I'm not gonna let you uh
you're gonna let me
change
destroy
my
that one.
mind. Yeah.
Give me some time. Give you some time.
I'll give you some time, bro. Don't worry about it.
I think you'll see. I think you'll come around. You'll come full circle, and you'll see. Like we could talk about hypothetical of like living forever. Oh, and I don't know what that
That'd
would
be
look like.
terrible. That'd be awful.
It's like it's like your life is a book, right? And you're reading this book. Um, and it just goes on and it never fucking ends. Isn't it nice to have this like one thing this that has a clear beginning and end and this story, right? Um, is very satisfying. It's like, this is it. This is this thing. This is that experience. The beginning and the end are crucial for that, right? It's
Right.
a gift to be able to start the story. It's a gift to have the ending and a sense of like closure and completion to it. And I
Yeah.
think if we think about life in that way too, right?
Mm, I'm not
Maybe
sure.
maybe this is copium from a mere mortal, as I had a friend tell me once when I think I tried to tell him the same thing. He's like, you think this is something a mortal would say to feel better about their own mortality. Um,
Well, we are mortal. We cannot do anything about it.
yeah, uh, maybe that's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
Speaking of mortality, death, the death of this episode.